Today I will be going over my ISP novel, The War by Timothy Finley. This story is about a soldier named Robert Ross and his courage, selflessness, and heroism, and eventually his fall and descent into madness. The War by Timothy Finley. I chose to quote, "The greater the power, the more dangerous the abuse," by Edmund Burke. I chose this quote as it encapsulates Robert Ross's story throughout the books and his adventures through World War I. Robert had it all. He was a secondary lieutenant, he was a commander, and by the time he got back he would have been considered a war hero by all that knew him. But Robert Ross, in the end of the book, had a realization when he was talking to cows in a field that he was only running away from his own problems at home, as the reason he joined the army and joined World War I in the first place was because his sister had died, and he felt depressed. This only got worsened on page 176 when Robert Ross got sexually assaulted by 3 men. And the fact that Robert Ross was redeployed multiple times. In the end, Robert Ross went mad from his own power and grief. The rise of Robert Ross. Robert Ross was a normal child like most of us, but he had ambitions. Robert Ross, by the time he was 7 years old, had decided he wanted to run a marathon. And he did. And he almost died. By the time Robert Ross was 18, he had joined the army. And he was fairly committed to it. By the time he was deployed for the first time, Robert was a squad leader, and he had command over 3 troops. Then, during the first deployment, he had almost died twice. Then he realized the harshness of the war, as the first time he almost died, was to a German soldier trying to kill him, and the second time he almost died was in the swamps. Then, by the second deployment, Robert Ross was fighting for people. He was selfless, and he didn't care about his own life as much as he cared about the lives of his teammates and squad. In one particular case, Robert Ross and his squad was being attacked by the German troops. They were trying to gas him out of a crater, but Robert Ross was the only one with a gas mask, and if he used it, then everyone else would die. But if he didn't, then everyone would die. Robert, knowing how to stop the gas, threw his gas mask to a injured squad mate named Bates. During this quote, Robert threw the mask to Bates. This was on page 126 of The War by Timothy Finley. By the third deployment, Robert Ross was a second lieutenant, and he was in command of his own troops. Back home, Robert Ross had a loving girlfriend and a lover. My thematic statement for The War by Timothy Finley is, are you willing to risk it all? In the end, Robert Ross was not willing to risk his life for Canada and the army, and he paid for it by going mad and getting scarred and dying. Robert Ross had joined the army as a way of escaping responsibility for his sister's death, the most prized possession in his life. But in the end, when he was living life on the high, he was willing to risk it. But when he wasn't, he was descending into madness. This is shown after. For my ISP novel, Oral Lens Presentation, I am using the psychoanalytical lens. And, as previously stated, Robert Ross had gone mad. I'm going to state as to why Robert Ross went mad in inferent ideas for how he did. There are multiple reasons as to why Robert Ross had gone mad. My first idea was maybe Robert Ross and his sister had such a deep connection, he didn't realize that he was just running away from his fear of his sister's death and responsibility for why she died. My other ideas are the sexual assault that happened on page 176. This was when Robert had become a commander, and he thought he was on the high. My third idea, Robert was redeployed 3 times, and currently, in our current way of life, redeployment is only limited to 2, and then you must go to therapy. This was not the case during World War I or World War II, as they needed many men. But during this time, Robert Ross had gone through multiple life or death situations. When he had almost drowned in a swamp, or when he was shot at and almost died, or when he broke his leg being crushed by a ship, or, most notably, when he was willing to sacrifice his life for the men and people in his squad. Robert Ross just wanted to go home, and he realized this on page 172 as a field where the war was about to take place. And his quote was, "This place should not feel the fear of guns, for I have felt before." In the end, Robert Ross had gone mad and he paid the price, but you can't help but feel sad for the man who sacrificed his life on multiple occasions for the others. This is the end of my ISP novel presentation. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you very much.